The following program is a production of HEW Entertainment and contains views, opinions, commentaries, and content that may offend some subscribers of this show. Listener discretion is advised.
It's that time once again for HEW Entertainment Radio.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Hosted by Jonathan Clark.
You beat the man! You gotta beat the man! Woo!
Be sure to join us in the live chat room during the show.
Hulkamania is running wild like it's never ran before.
Call us on one of our request lines. If you live in the United States, call us at 1-641-985-7800, box number 3729288. If you're from Canada and would like to call us from 1-647-724-4194, box number 3729288. Long distance charges may apply in some areas.
I've been the world heavyweight champion 10 times.
Or you can always drop us a line at MySpace, myspace.com/HEW Entertainment.
And you will rest in peace.
Emailing us works for you too. Email us hewwrestling@hotmail.com.
I am a wrestling god. JBL.
And now, without any further ado, here is your host of HEW Entertainment Radio on the official website of HEW Entertainment, Jonathan Clark.
The champ is here.
Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. HEW Entertainment Radio is inviting you to comment on our video blogs, join the conversation, and like us. So what are you waiting for? Log on and listen now. Don't miss out on any of the action. Download our app on the App Store, Google Play, and the official website of HEW Entertainment. Once you download and install it, you'll get caught up on news, YouTube videos, and more. Download it now.
He is 99% sure that he has beaten cancer, and after hearing that Bret Hart had been diagnosed with prostate cancer earlier this year, a couple of weeks ago, it really touched my heart to know that Bret Hart was going through this and having to deal with an unfortunate circumstance like this, because cancer affects us in so many different ways, because there are so many different forms of it. But the courage of Bret Hart is just something that really stands out amongst everything else that he's had to deal with in his personal life. I mean, we can say what we want about Bret Hart, but this is really an amazing story that really touches my heart in a lot of ways, after having to deal with so many different forms of cancer in my family for a number of years, and just knowing that Bret Hart was victorious in his fight. 99% sure is what the statistic is looking like for Bret Hart's victory over cancer. Is just something that really gives us a bit of positivity and a better outlook for the future in 2016, or at least for what's left of this year. At least now Bret Hart can focus on everything that matters. And I know that Bret Hart was sometimes the most difficult individual to have been around or to have profiled in professional wrestling, because I've been profiling professional wrestling for what will be 18 years this coming August. And I have to tell you this, Bret Hart was never the most enjoyable person to be around. He was very difficult, more times than enough, or that he was ever given credit for. I'll take you back to 2006 when Bret Hart first was inducted into the Hall of Fame as the headliner that year. And of course there was an animosity between himself and the WWE, and he didn't want to attend WrestleMania the following night and appear on the stage with all the people he went into the same class with that year. That was over 10 years ago, and it took Bret Hart 4 years after that to come back in 2010. While the 2010 return of Bret Hart may have seemed like it buried the hatchet, I don't think a hatchet like this could have ever been entirely buried. They had himself and Shawn Michaels have the confrontation in the ring, and then of course that match between Vince McMahon and Bret Hart by WrestleMania 26 in 2010, the same year that Shawn Michaels was retiring, which is very appropriate. But the thing was, I don't think that hatchet was ever buried, and there were a lot of people that had mixed emotions about Bret Hart returning. I know the Big Show said, that Bret Hart was leaving the company years ago, so things had to go the way it went for WWE, because there was no way Vince McMahon was going to let Bret Hart leave for World Championship Wrestling with his championship, so he took matters into his own hands over a $9 million dispute over the course of 3 years that Bret Hart would have signed for WCW after faxing off his 14-year resignation with WWE. I mean, what else were you supposed to do? I think that WWE handled the situation very professionally. More people in Canada probably feel that it could have been handled more professionally than what it was. But here's what it comes down to. This is how really I felt about Bret Hart for years. If there ever was a bar fight between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart that ended up out on the street, and I would have seen this bar fight, I probably would have jumped in and helped Shawn Michaels, because at the end of the day, after every show that I saw as a young fan of professional wrestling, Shawn Michaels was always the one that I came away from these shows the most entertained by. It was never Bret Hart who gave us these 5-star matches. Now, I'm not saying that Bret Hart didn't give us any 5-star matches, but Shawn Michaels always had a way of outperforming Bret Hart. So when it came down to it, at the end of the day, when it was all said and done, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin were my all-time favorites with professional wrestling. I could just never get into the pink and black attack and this whole persona and this image that Bret Hart had of being the best, because he really believed that he was the best, and that's really what it had to do with me feeling the way I have about Bret Hart for years. Now, I've said this, to authors of books who wrote stories on Bret Hart and different situations that befell the Hart family over the years, whether it be the overdosing of the British Bulldog in 2002, the death of Owen Hart in 1999, and Bret Hart, of course, having to deal with his stroke. I said this to a lot of authors of books who profiled the situations revolving around the Hart family. I know that when I went to Saskatchewan and interviewed Scott Keith a number of years ago, I said we weren't there, so we're just kind of basing our assumptions on what happened because we're fans of professional wrestling and probably what we've read on different websites or seen on YouTube when it comes to the Hart family. We weren't there, so we don't have a first-hand account of what really happened with the Chris Benoit suicide, the Hart family tragedies that, of course, befell them over the years. No matter what one you're talking about, I mean, it's been years since all this happened. So we're just writing it from the experience of being a wrestling fan. We're not writing it from just being someone who was there and had a first-on-hand account of what happened with the Harts and what happened with the Chris Benoit situation. So really, at the end of the day, the documentation of this person or that person on YouTube or for a written column on a website like WrestleZone or OnlineWorldOfWrestling.com is just an account, and it's just an opinion, really, they're throwing at us as wrestling fans. So at the end of the day, we really don't know what happened. We're just assuming this is what happened and this is how it happened. So I think that, the Harts definitely have had mixed emotions, and this is why They've been the way they have for years. But even though they've been, given opinions towards over the years so many times by so many different people, both American and Canadian fans, again, I was never really a big fan of the Canada versus the U.S. storyline back in 1997, early 1998. I mean, that went on for way too long.